Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience episode number 198. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black Entrepreneur Experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards, blogger and digital branding marketer, radio host, TV personality, fashion influencer, and commercial model, Sana Kibz. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So people always want to call me Sanai sometimes because of Sanai Lathan. But yeah, Sana Kibz. How are you?
I am perfect. So why don't you fill in the gaps? Share with our audience what you'd like us to know about you and your business.
Ooh, okay. So I am a Nigerian American TV personality. I am also an entrepreneur. I am also a radio host and a skincare blogger. I've been doing everything from modeling to acting since I was about 16 years old. And ever since then, it's just been a whirlwind of just entertainment and entrepreneurship and things of that nature. And anyone who is looking to just know more about who I am, they can reach out to me on sanakibz.com or Sana Kibz on all social media.
What is your greatest discovery, Sana?
My greatest discovery is it is okay not to be okay. And what I mean by that is a lot of us feel as though as a human being, we want to be perfect. We want to always get things right. But if you've gone through childhood trauma, if you've seen things that, maybe the average person hasn't seen, those things are going to affect you. And it is okay to say that actually I'm not okay. And I want to get the tools necessary to correct or at least try to fix this thing that I feel like has been a flaw. And I believe that one of those things for me has been seeking therapy. I've actually just started seeking therapy because I feel like my greatest discovery has been that I can be strong, but I can also understand when I'm weak. And a lot of people don't give themselves that awareness to know when they're weak. And so I believe one of my greatest discoveries recently has been just to know that I'm not okay in everything and it is okay to seek help.
Thank you for being so authentic about that. And when you talk about seeking help and knowing when you need help and when there's areas of opportunity, meaning that we're not okay. Talk about mental health and COVID-19 and what people should do in this moment.
Oh man, when I say that, this has been a very eye-opening time. Every single weakness, every single flaw has been exposed. It has been exposed to myself. It has been exposed to my partner. And I believe that what this COVID-19 is really doing is any excuse that you would have had, I don't have enough time, or, I wish that, if I was given this opportunity, I would have made it do this and do that. I believe that COVID-19 is really allowing us to be able to really either silence ourselves in a way that we're not running up and down, we're not moving all over the place, but silence ourselves to the point of just really getting to know yourself and connecting with yourself, connecting with your soul and your spirit. And yes, the real part of COVID-19 is to stay safe and to do all those other things. But on a spiritual standpoint, I believe that this is probably once in maybe the last 100 years where we've actually just been at a standstill. And it is either making people better or it's revealing a lot of things that people need to work on. And some people is making them worse. And so I believe when it comes to mental health, this time period is really just allowing ourselves, if you wanted to really connect with yourself, to know okay, there are some things about myself that I actually think I should change. And maybe I should use the time right now to seek the resources or to seek the different type of tools to work on those things. And so I am taking the necessary steps to do that because although on the outside I look like I got it going on the inside, I've gone through, traumatic experiences from homelessness to seeing domestic abuse in the house to being raised by a single mother. So all of those things, I cannot make myself believe that, none of that affected me. No, of course not. But I believe now more than ever, living with a male partner, I'm seeing all of the things that I never really thought was an issue because we're with each other because of COVID-19. And so I believe that like this time period, it's what you make of it. But in mental health regard, I think this is the time to really connect with yourself.
Anna, what are you most grateful for right now in your life?
Ooh, I'm most grateful for just life in general. There's a lot of people that are waking up to either receiving bad news or they themselves are in a bad situation because of COVID-19, whether that be illness, whether that be lack of finances, whether that be not even having a roof, like being able to maintain a roof over their heads. And so I believe that right now I'm most grateful for just being able to be alive and healthy and in a good environment where I can still thrive regardless of what is happening outside.
Talk about your business venture, you being a model. How has things pivot? How did you pivot during COVID-19?
So I have been a on and off again model for quite some time since I was 16 years old. And when COVID-19 hit, all of those gigs stopped. And so because all of those gigs stopped, I really did not know. I've always had an entertainment career, but I've always had a 9 to 5 to sustain me. But it's always been a 9 to 5 where it's contracted. So I will only do a project for about 3 months or 6 months because I just have a very free spirit. I can't be locked down at a 9 to 5 desk for 3 or 5 years. So I take on contracts where it's like, okay, you're going to be at this contract for 6 months. So when I'm not doing that, I'm doing the side hustles, which is the modeling, the acting, things of that nature. So when COVID-19 snatched away those gigs, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I going to survive this? Because I rely on going out, going to events, networking, meeting people. So that's when I said, you know what else am I good at? And I've always been good at digital marketing and social media because I've worked for companies where that was my role, whether it be e-commerce or digital marketing. So I said, you know what, let me see if anyone around me needs social media help. And so I started reaching out to friends that were either starting businesses or that were in businesses. And I said, hey, I know the tools to help you grow on social media. Would you be open to working with me? And I started that in February with no clients. And now in July, I have about 7. So I was able to use my other skills to help supplement my money and keep me afloat during COVID-19. And now I have like another business that I didn't even know that it was crazy because I'm like, I've always done this for myself or, the Fortune 500 companies I was working for, but I never thought to possibly start it on my own. So that has been the transition from relying on the side hustle of modeling to now just solely being an entrepreneur working on businesses. And it's been great.
And what can we do right now to support your business?
Oh, wow. So right now I have, along with being a social media manager, I'm also a radio host on 107.5 WBLS. And we are the first Afrobeat themed radio show in New York City. So we play all African music and we interview African music stars. So if you can support me by tuning in Friday nights at 11 p.m. And we air on 107.5, but also you can hear it on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and any large radio streaming platforms. And I just launched a jewelry business, a fashion jewelry business for fashionistas that love great, unique pieces without breaking the wallets. So I launched that about 3 weeks ago. So that is awakenjewelry.com. That's AWKN. So I spelled it that way, jewelry.com.
That is so exciting. So talk to a younger Sana. What advice would you give to a younger you?
I've always thought about that when I see people on social media write those type of comments. And I'm like, what would I say to myself? I think that I would tell myself, to be very honest, I would tell myself to focus a little more and not be so worried about the future and also not be so worried about who is going to love me and who's going to be my husband. Because I believe due to the fact that I grew up in a single family home and I watched my parents' relationship crumble, I was always so worried about who is going to be my mate and how is he going to treat me and if I'm going to be able to break that generational curse. And so I believe that that had a hold on my life when I was younger, just really thinking like, am I really going to find someone? Is he going to be like my dad, or is he going to be someone different? And so I wish that I can go back and tell myself to focus more on my academics, focus more on what it is that I have for me, because whoever God has for me will come. And he did.
So excited. So give us some relationship advice.
On the real, I would say right now during COVID-19, if you are with a partner, listen. We always want to talk. We always want to say our piece. We always want to be distracted by social media or TV or just not paying attention to our partner. But I would say this is a really good time right now to listen. Listen to your partner's needs and desires and tell them yours. Really take a second to put phones away, put the Netflix away, and just talk to each other. And I believe that right now, that is what me and my partner are doing. We went from arguing every 2 days in the beginning of COVID-19 to now having constructive talks where we're like, hey, I want to talk to you about how I've been feeling about something. And instead of us like screaming and yelling about it, we're just like, I didn't appreciate when this happened. And I would love if it could be this way and that way, and vice versa. And I believe for anyone right now going through COVID-19 with their partner, it's going to be a tug of war of emotions and frustrations and just not being patient enough, because we don't know what the future holds. But if you have someone that you really, truly care about, take the time right now to truly just listen attentively and also speak your own mind.
Someone's listening and they're saying, yeah, that's some great advice, but I'm single and I've been trying to find Mr. Right. Give me some advice.
Ooh, now this is my forte, because listen, I have my partner now that I've been with for 3 years, but I've kissed a lot of frogs to get here. And my advice to anyone that's single is 3 things. It is to pray. It is to fast. It is to write down exactly what it is that you want. Because I remember there was a time before I met him that I was so frustrated because I knew that I was giving my life to God. I knew that I was trying my best to do better. I knew that I was working on myself, but the person still hadn't come yet. And I was just being so frustrated. And one of my friends, they told me, they said, have you ever written down exactly what you want? And I'm like, yeah, tall, dark, and handsome. Yeah. And they're like, no. Have you really broken it down into specifics? And I'm like, but God knows the desires of our hearts. They're like, you got to tell God exactly what you want. And if you can't speak it because you have a million thoughts, write it down. Because when you write things down, it puts energy into it. And so I was like, you know what? I know I'm going to write a novel and my hands are going to get tired. So I'm going to write an email. So I typed up an email to God of every single thing that I want. And when I say I broke it down to, he got to have a good hairline. I want him to help me in the kitchen when I'm cooking. I want everything. My boyfriend came, and I also challenged God. I said, God, I want you to bring this man to me in 3 months. And God laughed at my plans because he brought me him in 4 months, but he listened because he brought me everything on that list. But my boyfriend tells me, never forget the fact that I was working on myself before he came. So one thing about the prayer and the fasting and the writing down is you also have to be working on yourself. So I had to love myself more. I had to be willing to give myself the things that I desired from a partner. Now we are all sitting at home, but there was a point where I was sitting at home like, oh, no one can take me out. I don't have a boyfriend. But I remember watching something from TD Jakes, and TD Jakes said, give yourself the things that you desire. Give yourself the things that you desire from a partner. So when your partner comes, he knows your standard. So I started going to the movies by myself. I started going to brunch with my homies. I started going and doing the things I want to do with a partner. So when he met me, it's like, oh, I go to brunch on Saturdays. So, or, I don't sit at home. I started, I like going to the movies. And so when he was there, he's like, okay, well, I have to meet this girl where she is. And I believe all of those things together brought me the demand of my desires.
You talked about self-love. Talk about self-care. What does that look like to you?
Self-love is finally being able to look in the mirror, and even if you don't feel like you are truly your best, you're not so hard on yourself. Because it's one thing, because people are like, self-love, love yourself, and say you're beautiful. And I'm like, sometimes you look like a frog. Sometimes you don't feel like you want to tell yourself that. But even if you don't want to tell yourself those things, don't call yourself ugly, though. Don't call yourself a slouch. Don't say that nothing good is coming your way. Don't speak those things over your life, because everything after I am comes to be. So I truly believe that self-love is telling yourself, even if you don't have the right words to say, you are telling yourself, don't say the negative though. Because everyone always talks about the self-love of just like the affirmations but it's like sometimes you just don't got it in you. So I believe self-love is also being able to catch yourself and not tell yourself that those negative things, because those negative things weigh down on you and they really can make you depressed, or they can make you feel as though you're worthless. So I believe self-love is being able to catch yourself before you say the negative, even if you don't want to say the positive, and also giving yourself those affirmations. And I also believe self-love is enriching yourself. It's not always the outer beauty. It's someone knows this and I don't. But do you want to know more about that subject? Read about it. Research. Get to know things that you really desire. Do you have a passion for artistry? Go to Michael's and buy a $30 painting kit and really pour yourself into that. That is self-love. That is self-gratification. That is pouring into you. So I believe that is self-love. And self-care to me is skincare. I can talk about skincare all day, so I won't even turn this into a skincare podcast. But self-care to me is taking care of yourself, just like really giving yourself the little manicures, the pedicures, really. And I'm not talking about going to the store and doing it. I'm not talking about going to the salon. I'm talking about going to CVS, getting yourself the Kiss kits, taking care of yourself the right way, and really just giving yourself the love that you desire, because that's how someone else will come into your life and meet you where you are.
Give us your best beauty tip for today.
Ooh, my best beauty tip that I've actually been using is I've been incorporating turmeric into my skincare. So I've learned so much about turmeric, and I've read the benefits and things of that nature. It's anti-inflammatory, it's antibacterial, it's anti-aging, it brightens up the skin. If you have hyperpigmentation, it helps to darken those type of marks. And it's so wonderful. So I would say for anyone who is struggling with just feeling like their skin is getting dull, or they're just not, perked up where they need to be, I would say incorporate some type of turmeric oil or turmeric powder into your mask. So if you do your DIY project, get some turmeric powder from an Indian store, because that's where turmeric comes from. So it comes from Africa, but it's also in Asia. It's also in India. So go to an Indian store, go to an African store, or go to Whole Foods and get turmeric powder. Put it in some homemade mask, put it on your face for about 30 minutes, rinse it off, and your face will look so much brighter and it's so much more radiant. And then if you don't want to do DIY, go ahead and buy turmeric oil or turmeric capsules from the store and just start incorporating it into your beauty regimen.
And when you talk about turmeric with that, because it has like a color in it, and you just can't use any type of turmeric.
Yes.
Like it's a certain type, and you have to be very careful if you're using turmeric, correct?
If you're using turmeric supplements and capsules, then you're good to go. You just pop them in and it does everything from the inside out. But if you are using it on your skin, if you are light skin, if you are pale to light skin, if you leave it on too long, you can have a yellowish tint on your skin. That will fade away. It's not permanent. It will fade away in about 2 to 3 days if you just consistently continue to wash your face. But if you want to just do a quick 5-minute mask, you'll still be fine. But if you are medium to dark skin, you can leave turmeric on your skin for about an hour and you'll be just fine. But it's not something that I would say use every single day, but it's definitely something to incorporate into your regimen maybe once or twice a week.
Love that. There are so many brands and businesses that are successful. Talk about a brand or a business that's dominating that you admire and why.
I love Urban Skin RX. And Urban Skin RX was started from, I believe it was started from a company that sponsored or invested into a multicultural woman. So I believe that she's mixed race. And don't quote me if I'm wrong about that, but her brand is so good. Her products, one of the best products I've ever used on my skin. Everything from my facial wash to my retinol that I use at night to my vitamin C serum. It's so good. It's so well done, and it's great for our skin. And I admire this brand because she saw what the multicultural and ethnic communities needed. She saw our need to have better skin. And sometimes the commercial products are not necessarily made for African American skin. So she did the necessary research, and the products are amazing. So I admire her for knowing that we needed something in our space and creating it. And it's doing really, really, really well.
What is something you do daily that is giving you the greatest success?
Pray. My daily, I don't go a day without praying, whether it's a small prayer or whether it's a Holy Ghost prayer. But I really, every single day, I wake up, I say a prayer. Throughout the day, I say my small little prayers before I eat, things of that nature. Whenever I just think about the glory of God, and then before I go to sleep, I pray. And I think that that has a lot to do with my success because it keeps me grounded. It also reminds me of the grace that I have over my life. So that in itself reminds me to always be thankful, to always have gratitude, to always remember where it is that I'm coming from. And it definitely plays a part in my success because the blessings are evident. So I know that it is not the works of just me, but the works of God.
When it's all said and done, talk about your legacy. How do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for a woman that beat the odds, a woman that was born into a situation that really could have broken a lot of people or really could have made a lot of people turn to bad things, whether it be drugs, whether it be, sexual kind of things. There's so many things that I witnessed in my life that it could have went completely left. And I chose to believe, I chose to have faith, and I chose to know that that is not my portion. And what I mean by that is not my destiny. That is not my life story. So I believe that alone has made me feel as though I am destined for much greater things. And so my legacy that I want to leave behind is to just be known as someone that no matter what happened to her, she still pushed through. She pushed through everything negative that was supposed to break her. And I would love to have a skincare line one day. I would love to be able to pass something like that on to my children. I would love to be able to be a mother with children. And I would love to be able to just have some type of foundation that helps either the homeless and or children of domestic violence, because I would love to let people see the example of coming through something like that and still being able to stand with their head held high, knowing that because that was where they grew up, their circumstances does not necessarily dictate where they're going in life.
Talk about the story being born in Nigeria and how did you become this amazing influencer in America?
I was actually not born in Nigeria. My family is born in Nigeria. I was actually born in London. I was born in London and I came to America when I was maybe like 1 or 2, I believe. And because I came here at such a young age, this is my home. Like, this is my, I'm just as much Nigerian as I am American. So that's why I say I'm Nigerian American. But my roots are fully Nigerian and I rep, all day. But I would say that this is the country that raised me. This is the country that I went to every elementary school, high school, middle school, college, everything. So being a Nigerian American, though, it's like you have to understand what you learn and what you leave behind. And so what I mean by that is being raised in a Nigerian home, you have to understand that your parents are limited by how they grew up in another country. So yes, they're teaching you life lessons, but not everything that they teach you, you can incorporate in another country. And the same thing with being raised in America. Everything that I am taught here does not define who I am. I have to then turn what I learn around and make that into something better or something greater. So what I've been able to do is mix the blend of cultures together, and it has made me truly who I am today. So I believe that having the best of both worlds allows me to become more of a wholesome person, more of a person who is has a broader mind of thinking about certain things because I've been able to see different types of people, different types of cultures, different types of heritages.
And thank you for that correction. Talk about your top 2 influencers and what lessons did they teach you?
My top 2 influencers, I would say my top 2 influencers, one would be Tierra Monet. Tierra Monet is an African-American influencer. She actually went to college with me and she left, I think, her sophomore year. And she's also from Bronx, New York. And I saw her from the ground up. She now has about close to 1 million subscribers on YouTube. I think she has like 500,000 on Instagram or whatever case may be. But I saw her from zero. I saw her really grow from not having any followers to where she is now. And it has really shown me the process that it takes because this girl started this, I think she started in 2006, 2007. And now in 2020, she's endorsed by so many brands. She's living La Vida Loca. She's having a great time. She just moved to Atlanta. And for me to see that growth, for me to see where she started from to where she is now, it's been a privilege to see because, sometimes you see people's success story and you're like, oh, I don't know how they got there, or I don't know, what it took. But I saw the grind from 2007 to where she is now. So she has been an inspiration because I've seen someone that I actually know go from zero to hero. So that's one. And then another woman, she's not necessarily an influencer, but she's someone that I knew from Maryland. Her name is Yvonne Orji. She's an actress on Insecure. And I remember when I was doing on-air TV hosting for a Virginia station, and I think it was 2011, 22. It was either between 2009 to 2011. I'm not really sure which the exact year. But I interviewed her because I was doing a TV show about Africans in the diaspora. And she came on the show and she was just telling me about how she's a stand-up comedian. Her family wanted her to be a doctor, but she didn't want to be a doctor. They were not pleased with her wanting to be a comedian, wanting to be what they call a jester. So she turned that around because now she is an actress on Insecure. She just got nominated for an Emmy and she defied the odds. And so she's also an inspiration because once again, I saw someone go from zero to hero. So these 2 women have been very inspirational without them even knowing it to my life because it lets me know that, hey, there's going to be a lot of steps you have to climb to get to where you want to go.
Let's shift gears for a moment. Talk about your worst moment in business or life and what was your takeaway?
My worst moment in business and in life. I think one of my worst moments in business was stopping my women's wear line. So since I was modeling for so long and I started to really understand the aesthetic of designs and fashion shows and things like that, I went into designing. So I actually learned how to sew and I started to design women's wear clothing. And it was a very fast turnaround. I started, I think, in August 2011. And by August 2012, I was already getting interviews. I was already getting my clothes on a lot of the celebrities in Nigeria. I was definitely being known as a designer around the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. But when I moved to New York City in 2013, I let the dream die because I didn't move into my own place when I first moved to New York City. I was living at a friend's apartment with her and her whole family, and I was sleeping on the couch. So I literally couldn't move my sewing machine and I couldn't move all my stuff there. So the dream started to die a little bit. And I also started to let fear consume me, feeling as though I'm in New York City and there's so many big designers and I will never be able to compete with them. So I let the dream die. And I think about it sometimes, like, what if I would have continued doing it? Where would it be today? But I can always go back. That is the good thing about life. That's the good thing about having a natural talent for anything. If you really, truly have the talent and knack for it, you can always go back to it. And one of my biggest mistakes in life, I've had so many. I've had so many. I don't even know if I can think of any of that at this point. I feel like I've had so many. But I think I would say one of the things I don't like that I do sometimes is give up too early. And I think that's also lends a story to letting go of the women's wear line. But I think one of the biggest mistakes is just giving up when things get really, really hard or really uncomfortable. I tend to give up, but I've been learning this year has truly allowed me to believe in myself more and to be more fearless in everything that I'm trying to pursue.
Talk about that person in your lineage that has inspired you the most.
It has to be my mother. It has to be my mother. My mother is the strongest woman in my life because my mother was dealt with one of the hardest things that I believe any woman can be dealt, and that is being left in an unknown country that you were not born and raised in with 5 children. And she did not separate us. She did not put us in different homes. She kept us all together. And because she was a foreigner, she was not seeking government assistance. And there is no offense to anyone who does, but because my mother was a foreigner, she wasn't privy to all of these things. And it was very unfortunate because she moved here with her husband thinking that things will be like, all American dream. And it didn't turn out that way for her. But even with all of that, she pushed through. She pushed through every single thing that was made to break her. She kept us together. She figured it out. She moved us back into an apartment when we were homeless for about 6 months. She did what she had to do. She fixed her credit. And then she was able to finally move into a 5-bedroom house all by herself. And to see that, no one, I've met a lot of influential people. I've met a lot of great people. I've had a lot of amazing people in my life. But to go through that, to live through that, to see that with my own 2 eyes, my mother is my biggest inspiration. And she is the person who has taught me resilience and strength, and to not allow any circumstance to keep you where you are. So my mother is my biggest inspiration.
Thank you for sharing. If you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
Okay, I believe if I was to conduct this interview, I would ask myself, what is my life motto or my life quote? And my life motto is bloom where you are planted. And this is my life quote because I've gone through a lot. I've gone through a lot of ups, but I've gone through a lot more down. And it didn't break me. It didn't break me. It didn't make me turn to vices that would break me more. It really allowed me to bloom in every situation that I was in. So whether it was while I was homeless, whether it was finally leaving Maryland to come to New York City with $1 in a dream to try to figure it out, whether it was getting on TV, whether it was getting on the radio, whether it was being in the room with celebrities that I've seen on TV for many years. Any room that I'm in, any situation that I'm in, I still bloom. I still allow myself to hold my head up high, knowing that God is with me. And with God, I can do all things. But also knowing and understanding that a lot of these people in this room, they don't know where I'm coming from. And a lot of them wouldn't be here if they knew, if they went through what I went through. So the fact that I'm still among, the fact that I'm still here, the fact that I'm still rising allows me to know that if you bloom in every stage of life that God gives you, then you're going to continue to grow. You're going to continue to bloom into the next stage of life. And so that is my life motto. That is my life quote. And that is my life lesson that I would let anyone who's listening know, that no matter the circumstances, no matter the situation that you see yourself in, make the best out of the opportunity, because you don't know where you're headed, but that stage that you're in may be lessons that you need to learn in order to get to the next stage.
We've come to our part of the interview. It's called Fun Facts Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Fun Facts Lightning Round?
Yes.
The last movie you saw?
The last movie I saw, Black is King.
That's Beyonce's new one.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. You relax doing what?
I relax sleeping.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
My favorite singer is Yemi Alade, and my favorite rapper, I don't really have one, but I have an Afro beats artist, and it's Burna Boy.
Your favorite dance song?
My favorite dance song is Killin' Them by Burna Boy.
What food you eat every week no matter what?
Ooh, ice. I eat ice every day. But yeah, I would say my favorite food, rice. I love rice.
And it rhymes, rice and ice. Your favorite month?
My favorite, December, because that's the month that I was born. It's also Christmas, and it's also Happy New Year.
Workout or hit the couch?
So now it's workout. For a long time, it was hit the couch.
Thank you so much, Sana, for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, why don't you share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you and to do business with you? Feel free to leave all your social media handles.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come on this podcast. Thank you for what you're doing for me and my generation and everyone for that matter. And I truly appreciate you for that. So I just wanted to get that out the way first. And for any of those people listening, you can check me out on sanakibz.com for all beauty tips, whether they be DIY or reviews. And you can also hit me up on social media at Sana Kibz, and that's SanaKibz on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that jazz. And you can support me by going to my jewelry company. It is AWKN Jewelry, and it stands for Awaken. But yes, that is how you can reach me, and I look forward to connecting with you all.
Thank you, Sana. That is a wrap.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.